What's up, everyone? Happy Monday. We are live just a few minutes late. We had some technical issues because that's how it rolls sometimes in life and business.
Never. That never.
Never. Oh, man. The perfectionist in me always wants things to be like exactly right, but that's just not how life works, you know?
Yeah.
It's not how life works. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. All right, y'all. Well, today we are going to cover a few things, which I think will be helpful and beneficial for you. We're going to cover an existing franchise for sale with $1 million in 2023 revenue. We're going to cover a franchisee. We're going to talk about a franchise where the top performing franchisee does 1.8 million in sales with one territory of a lighting franchise. We will, of course, show you all the other numbers as well. We'll talk about a family with young kids who are struggling to find the right business to start. Maybe some of you guys can relate to this. I know we got a lot of families and parents and folks that watch and follow and that are, part of our just community overall. And then we'll cover the latest Franchise Empire Show podcast, which was a solo I did on the 4 keys to buying a winning franchise. And of course, if you guys have any questions in the meantime, or while we're going through it, drop it in the comments or in the chat below. And for those of you who banners, oh man, I got to delete all those. Let's see. For those of you who are not signed up for our newsletter, you can get this in your inbox every single Sunday morning and get access to this whole blurb that I write. We don't cover it anymore in here, and you'll be able to read this in your leisure and get access to it a day early. So you can do that at franchiseempire.com/newsletter. All right. With that said, let's talk about this resale, Kevin. What do we got?
Yeah, I mixed it up this week. So this is a different type of business than what we usually talk about, but it's called Play It Again Sports. So it is a franchise that does basically a wholesaler for or buying and reselling used sporting goods. So you can imagine like their target customer is probably families in their local communities where you don't want to go, your kid's trying out baseball, you don't want to go and drop $500 on all the equipment they need, so you go to Play It Again Sports and get something that's used and still in pretty good quality. So this company's been around since 1983. It is actually part of the Winmark brands. So Winmark, they have 5 franchises under their umbrella, and they're all retail based, which is kind of interesting. So, a lot of times we see umbrella brands that have a lot of service based. Winmark has all retail based. So they have like Plato's Closet, which is pretty popular, which is, buying and selling, teenage and adult clothes. And then they have Once Upon a Child as well, which is the same market, but for kids, like younger kids, buying and trading toys and clothes and all that kind of stuff. So Play It Again Sports is the one that's dedicated to sporting goods. It's a good one if you want to be involved in your local community. This one, the exact resale location is in Westmont, Illinois, which is like a suburb of Chicago. The asking price for this particular location is $695,000. It's been around since 2007. And the owner is retiring. So, it's been around for a while. Owner's retiring, which is a good thing. 2023 revenue of last year was just over $1 million. In the seller discretionary earnings, they said they can provide that upon signing a non-disclosure agreement. So this one's established retail location. I actually Googled the address and looked it up, and it's a pretty high traffic street seemingly in that area. So that location would be assignable to the new owner. There are currently 10 employees, a mix of full-time and part-time. So, this is a well-established business, something you could step into. I wonder, what the owner's involvement is at this point, since they're approaching retirement. That'd be one of the main questions I'd have is how many hours a week is that owner spending? What is their role in the business? Things like that. But as I mentioned, Play It Again Sports is part of that Winmark umbrella. They have 850 franchisees and over 1,200 stores open throughout the US, which so they're just massive. They've got that retail system figured out. They have an inventory management system that they use across the brand. So, I do think they have the retail world, pretty dialed in. And according to the 2024 FTD for this particular franchise for Play It Again Sports, the average gross sales for their top quartile of stores that had been open for at least 1 year was just over 2 million. And then the second quartile below that for stores that have been open for a year was around 1.2 million. So pretty strong numbers, actually. And these stores aren't something where you need a large renovation cost to get into it by any means. There's not a ton of overhead for like a typical retail location. You're just basically managing your inventory, and that's, I don't know if you call that overhead or whatever, but that's your main kind of expense. You don't have a lot of, you're not like installing a kitchen where you have expensive equipment and signage and things like that. So, their mission at Play It Again Sports is to reduce the amount of waste of consumer goods, which is kind of cool. And they want to be able to provide affordable sporting goods solutions to families in their local communities. So kind of like a feel good purpose behind this business. And, the numbers are actually pretty strong as well. But yeah, Tark, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, solid. So Winmark as a whole, as you were talking about, Winmark is just a great parent company from everything that I've seen and heard about them. We've had a client who bought one of their brands. He bought a Plato's Closet.
Okay.
He bought a Plato's Closet and an existing location, bought a resale, crushing it, is doing really well, had a manager in place, was performing really well. He got a great deal in the store. And he hit me up about, I don't know, 6 or 9 months after buying it. He was like, I'm only working like 15 hours a week. This store's pretty turnkey. Because it just, it had been around so long. It was performing really well, doing this pretty significant volume in sales. So I think anything under the Winmark brand overall, you're really, I think it's a great opportunity, especially they're asking $695 for it. I mean, obviously without an NDA and seeing the actual profit and loss, but we can have a pretty good idea of what we guesstimate that to be producing in terms of net to owner based on the asking price. And yeah, if you're someone who likes like stable, you don't want something kind of newer, more emerging, you want something where it's generally figured out. And kind of you're a slow and steady kind of person. I feel like this is potentially like a solid opportunity, and they really know what they're doing. I mean, they have Winmark is a huge company. I think they're publicly traded too. Are they?
I don't know for sure. I mean,
I think they're publicly traded. So they have a ton of resources, for franchisees. I mean, they have a huge corporate team at Winmark. So yeah, I think this is like one of the things that I like about Winmark and their brands overall, and particularly this opportunity. It's like this is, I mean, overall, I think it's Amazon proof in the sense that when you're talking about resale and like gently used items, people want to be able to go see it and touch it and feel it. And so I feel like they're just kind of going to continue to crush it. And they really dominate the market in the resale of whether it's Once Upon a Child with kids clothes, whether it's Plato's Closet for teenagers, Play It Again Sports. I think they have a music one too, right? A music brand underneath it. So I think a solid opportunity for those of you guys who may be in that area, in the Westmont, Illinois greater area overall. You can go to franchiseempire.com/resales, and we can get you connected with the owner and the franchisor in the instance that you want to learn more about it. Or if you're just someone who is like, hey, I want to know, are there franchise resales available in my area? If so, what are they? Then you can go to franchiseempire.com/resales to be able to set up a quick call with Kevin and or the team, and they'll be able to check and kind of see what's available for you overall. On to the next one.
You want me to talk about this, or are you going to talk?
Yeah, no, it would be great for you to talk about it.
All right, cool. Yeah. So, client case study we're featuring was Maritza and Jose, husband wife combo, and they came to us really not knowing what they wanted to do, which is very common, and that's we like working with people like that because we can help provide clarity. But they were very open to a number of different ideas, so we actually did an initial round of searches and presenting options to them, and they went through validation with, I believe it was two or three. They went pretty far down the path with one, but ultimately through the validation process, just realized it wasn't a great fit. So, that can happen, and we'd rather have you do that than like go too fast and sign and get into something where you're stuck and it's not a good fit. So, we went back to the drawing board, and found an option for them that was actually like a residential and commercial window tinting franchise. Very low startup cost, something you could bootstrap it, operate from your home to start, low overhead. And it ended up being a perfect fit for them. So they went through validation. They were very excited about it. They liked everything they heard from the other owners. And then they actually went to training in like the week they got back from training. Corporate had already lined up a job for them, which is pretty cool. And they had shared that with the group, the ZTPF community. And so, yeah, really cool story there. I think it was kind of a persistent story because, they could have gotten kind of down going through validation with three different franchises. And, a lot of people get pretty flustered with that, which is understandable, but they got right back into it and went through and found the right one for them. So, yeah, I'm excited for them. They have young kids like Tarek and I do. So, just trying to manage everything is challenging, but you just got to fight through it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, to me, I thought this was just a cool story overall. I was trying to think of what would be, something good to include. And, I think uh, Kevin and I and Krista were in a meeting earlier, and we were just talking about the effectiveness and power of the system we built with zero to profitable franchise and the different layers. So, most people traditionally looking to buy franchise, they're just, maybe you get thrown a couple of options with, a broker or consultant, and that's kind of it. And for some people, that's okay. That's a sufficient enough process. We find with the more sophisticated individuals or people that have more business experience, like that can be sufficient for them. But for most, we have our zero to profitable franchise community, and so the way that works is we've created a community of franchise buyers. These guys interact with each other. They support each other as they're buying. We now have, because we've been doing this for 3 years now, we now have a lot of people that are franchisees already. So like someone actually posted in our group, they were like, "Hey, what do you think of Neighborly? I'm looking at Neighborly brands." And we had one of our clients that Kevin and Krista helped buy a brand in Neighborly, and it turns out this guy in our community was actually, that was one of the brands he was asking about. And so our client, who's a franchisee, hopped in and was like, "Hey, this is what's been my honest experience working with Neighborly." And so it's just it's a trustworthy community. And you see everyone, when you see other people doing it, there's the social proof of like, "Oh, I can do it too." And so it creates this social proof where I think in situations where, for those of you watching or listening, where you might give up in the process or it might just kind of fall by the wayside. And I think this could have been one of those opportunities where it potentially did, especially it can feel deflating, right, Kevin, when you get so far down the process with the brand and
Mhm.
then, it turns out it's like, it's not quite the right fit. I don't quite feel comfortable pulling the trigger. It can be challenging to get like re-energized and start the process over again with another brand. And I think we've had a number of times where that's happened with folks and they're able to pick back up because they keep coming on the weekly group coaching calls that we do, or they see other folks in the community signing agreements, launching their franchise, and it gets them excited and they're like, "Okay, I can do this. Let me remember why I was doing this." And just that whole, like, if that person can do it, then I can do it too.
Yeah, 100%. It's just a mindset shift. It's like, you just have to take it as an opportunity. Like, you learn from that experience. There's a reason it didn't work out. Don't let that minor hiccup like prevent you from accomplishing your overall long-term goal. And honestly, if you're going to let that bother you that much, I mean, once you get into being a business owner, there's going to be, some hiccups pretty quickly. So it's like you have to just get used to overcoming those things. So I mean, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I love the community because like you can see what everybody else is doing. You can see the questions they're asking. You can see the opportunities other people are exploring. I've had people say, "Hey, I saw XYZ over here. They're looking at this franchise. Could you check and see if it's available in my market? That sounds interesting." So there is a lot. The community that we've built is definitely what is the saying? You say all tides rise or whatever the hell it's called.
Oh, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, that. I think that's definitely a thing with our community.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. No, it really is. Yeah, cool. All right, well, we got a franchise of the week. Tell us about this opportunity, Kevin, and then of course, y'all, we're gonna dive into the numbers and the FTD so you guys can see it.
Yeah, so this franchise is called Outdoor Lighting Perspectives, OLP for short. OLP was founded in 95. They started franchising in 2005. They are part of an umbrella brand called Empower Brands. So there's probably like 12 home services franchises underneath Empower Brands. They have a lot of outdoor, like basically living type of brands. So they have Architect, which is, custom patios and, hardscapes and things like that. And then they have conservative irrigation. So you can kind of imagine like those owners are going to refer customers to OLP because they don't do lighting, and then vice versa. And that's also a way for you to expand within the network of brands. So maybe you start with the lighting company and then you add the irrigation. So there's ways to grow your business even within that Empower brand portfolio. But OLP, they have around 130 franchise units throughout the country. The total investment for this one is between around 100,000 and 214. And usually what you do for this particular brand is they do want you to hire like W-2 employee technicians. That's the biggest difference with this one compared to some of the other brands. And they're actually going to train those employees on how to do all the lighting installation. And you dig the ditches depending on the type of lighting. There's different things you have to do, different processes, but they're going to help train those employees. A lot of it is LED lighting, so it doesn't require licensing or an electrician, which is nice. So if you do have like customer requirements that require a need electrician, you just subcontract that work. You don't have to have an electrician on payroll, which is nice. So the owner's role, especially at the start, is a lot of networking. This one, you get referrals from companies like landscaping companies, from irrigation companies that don't know how to do lighting. They're not specialized in that, but they have customers that want that service. So if you're not comfortable with networking, they say that OLP is not probably going to be a great fit. You do get a decent amount of leads through direct marketing, but a lot of it is networking in your community with other business owners to get those referrals. So networking and then doing the sales consultations and then managing your team to do the work. So, yep, there you go. But I like this business. A lot of people think it's like, oh, it's too specialized to make good money. Well, the average ticket price on these jobs are about $4,000, and it's a 1 to 2 day installation. So,
Oh, wow.
I think the margins are pretty strong because it also doesn't require like very like high skilled labor. You don't need to hire like an electrician or a plumber or whatever it may be and pay them a high salary. It's more of, lower, your payroll is going to be lower. So if we want to look at,
Question.
yeah.
I've noticed this I've only seen this a few times. Do you know why some of the franchises do a 7-year term instead of a 10?
I have no idea. I
So
don't.
interesting.
It is weird. Yeah. I
Yeah, I'd love to understand. I think I know there's like one other franchisor I've seen that had a 7-year franchise agreement term too, and I thought, why 7 years?
Yeah, I don't know if there's rhyme or reason, or if somebody just when they were like putting together the FTD, they're like, well, let's just do 7 years, and that's how because I remember when I used to work for a home improvement franchise, and we were launching a new brand, and in a lot of ways we were just kind of making some stuff up in terms of like those type of terms, and when you were launching the new business. So, but I imagine there was some sort of rhyme or reason why 7 years versus 10. But
And are the other sister companies 7 years too, or no?
I
Like
doubt
Architect?
Architect's 10 years for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't
Cool.
know.
I didn't mean to sidetrack us. I saw it. I was like, huh, interesting.
Maybe it's like a way they can stand out and say like they're a 7 year term versus 10, and maybe it's more appealing to people. I don't know. But yeah, I could ask him.
Yeah, I'd love to know. I'd love to know if you can. I would love to.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Let's talk some numbers.
the way they break it down, I really like when companies break it down by single territory and then multi-territory, because you can get a good sense. All right, if I buy one territory in my market, what's realistic? Some of these numbers can be so inflated for other item 19s because it's like, well, they could have 10 territories, but they're only doing $1 million in revenue. So this one, the average across for one territory is 566,000. It looks like they have 18 franchisees doing, let's see, 500K or more for a single territory. And then the max is 1.8 for a single territory. That's pretty high. And then if we go down to the multi-unit chart here. So this is if one franchise owner owned multiple territories. And so then that jumps up to $1 million average for multi-unit territory owners. And then let's see, the average for the top 10 were 1.9 million. The max was doing 3.06 million. So pretty high numbers. But I think they also break down like P&L here, sample P&L below. Yep, there you go. So for this, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just funny because we've had more and more videos get more traction and views, especially some of the shorts. And when people hear me talking about the sales, and everyone's like, "But that's not profit." I'm like, "I know. That's why I said sales."
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
like I don't think people realize how nuanced a profit and loss statement is, and like no one manages their P&L the same way. Anyways, I don't want to get into that, but all right, tell us about, run us through the numbers.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation we could go down a rabbit hole on. But yeah, so I mean, I don't even know what location they specified here, if this was an average. Let's see what it says. I think it was an average of 45 reporting franchisees, this chart here. So average revenue of 903,000. They go through cost of labor or cost of goods sold. So labor is 16%, which
that's super low on labor.
Yeah, I was gonna say that feels very low. Material 30%. So gross profit of 53.8. That's strong. Like in a home, I think in service space, if you're above 50, that's pretty strong. And then you're looking at local marketing, royalties. Let's see what else. Office manager, that makes sense. Vehicle. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, 20% net. Let's see. Well, this is total revenue less cost of goods sold and certain required marketing and operating. So it's probably not true net the way that's worded there.
Yeah, and what they're probably accounting for, and this is the point where I think a lot of franchisors don't show P&L. Well, maybe there's some that just suck and they don't want to. But it's like when you have managers that run their health insurance, that run all these other things that business owners, when you're in a franchise, it's your business. Mm-hmm. So you could literally run every and any expense under your profit and loss statement that you wanted to. The franchisor has no control over what you run through your profit and loss and what you pay for out of your business account. It's your business. And so it is common when you see a franchisor showing this in the FTD that they show the net is of certain disclosed expenses, right? Because there may be some that's just not pertinent to the running of the business overall.
Yeah. 100%. That's why you have to have conversations with owners, like we always harp about when people are going through validation, to understand what those true numbers look like. But this is at least a starting point. Like, I appreciate they at least give you a starting point to learn from.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Actually, I was texting with one of our clients who had bought a franchise, and specifically in his words, he was telling me what sales he had done his first year. He bought a resale, turned it around, and is just on track to produce a pretty significant amount of sales for the business overall, especially that sort of business. And he said, keep in mind that the price I paid versus all the time off I had, it's totally worth it. So one, he got an absolute steal on the business. He got it for less than 100 grand, right?
Yeah.
And two, all the time off he's had. So I know he used to work in a car dealership in the service department. He used to be one of the service advisors. And so, he'd be on a fixed schedule. He'd be working, 10, 11 hours a day in the dealership. And basically what he's saying is, you know, the when you're a business owner, you have to factor in, like, even if you said, okay, I only made 100 grand. Let's say if that's not a lot for someone, right? They're used to making, let's say, 150 in the corporate world. But if you're making 100 grand and you have, like, you get your business to the point where you have lifestyle flexibility and maybe you're not at your computer 40 hours a week, then in theory, when you annualize it, it could be worth more to you really than that amount. So to Kevin's point, when you're talking to franchisees, you want to not just ask them about, are they happy with the money they're making or what sort of return they're getting or what their profitability looks like, but hey, what does that look like compared to the time and energy that you're actually investing in the business? And so when you ask the question that way, maybe someone is not performing the way that they want in the franchise system, but they're like, you know what? To be honest, I'm really only working 10 or 15 hours a week. So I'm sure if I put in more time and energy, I could perform better. So you got to ask those questions. Anything else to add there?
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, it's hard to value like the time and freedom part of it. For me, it's a big deal. It's worth a lot to me, but I think it's hard to understand the value of that until you recognize it and you're not like going in and having a boss in the corporate world and going into the office nine, it's like until you actually experience it, it's hard to know. Like it would be hard for me to ever go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I just want to hit on something real quick, guys, in the numbers is that, one of the reasons why I mean, we've really shifted. I mean, how often do you think our clients even buy retail-based franchises? Would you say only 5% of the time, 5-10%?
Yeah, that's fair.
So, just to give you guys an idea, like, okay, so the investment range is from 99 grand to 214. Now, keep in mind 59 of that is the franchise fee, right? And depending upon how you run it, I'm sure is gonna depend on what that range looks like. Obviously, that's gonna be in the FDD. Um, but I mean, a single territory owner, you've got, you know, so with the average being 566, but if you're doing between, there's 8 people doing between 500 and 750. And so to be able to produce or have even the opportunity to produce to have $1 million business, like if you're in the top, that's really the top 25%. So really that's like the top quartile, right, of single territory owners. And the average 1.1, median is still over a million. You paid less than 200 grand to get this business open. That's a 5-to-1 sales to investment ratio if you can be one of the top 25% performers. And so the great thing about a franchise system compared to anything else is that you can literally get on a call with the top performers and be like, "Hey, Kevin, what do you think's contributing to your success? Why do you think that you're so successful? Why do you think you're doing 1.2 million a year? And can I just break down how we're running our business and how do you think I can improve ours? You get to have a conversation with 10 franchisees who have the result that you're looking for. The benefit of that compared to starting something on your own or even potentially buying a traditional business where it could be producing great sales, but there's no support system. Where do you go when you're stuck and when you're in trouble and when you need help? That's one of the biggest advantages to franchising is the community and the access to other people that have like laid the foundation,
100%. Yeah. Uh, I have a quick story. So I used to work in a home improvement franchise, and I was facilitating like a mastermind group with owners. And we were talking, we had like two of the top performers in the network there, and one of the other owners asked me like, "Hey, what do you see the top performers doing?" I just said, "Well, I'll let Matt answer this." And so Matt just said, "Well, we do exactly what they tell us to do. When they have a new system or they say we do this, we're doing this marketing initiative, we do that. We follow their system. We just execute and we work hard. That's it." And then he started asking questions like, "Well, what are you guys doing for customer care? What are you doing for sales?" Like, in the very simple things that they weren't doing that the top performer was doing, he's like, "Why aren't you doing that?" "Well, because it's too hard and blah blah blah." It's like, I mean, those are all excuses, and it's just so, I remember that meeting because it was just like, if you just follow the system and you work hard, you can be successful. But if you try to like overthink it and recreate the wheel, or you're afraid to like do things, you're going to struggle. So that's like, I think how you become the top quartiles, you just like get in there, you start executing and you work your ass off and you follow the model. So, and not to rant on it, but I just still remember that meeting. I was like, and it was just so funny because I was like, I love Matt for saying that because we've been harping on people to follow the model for so long. And, for whatever reason, people just think that they should do it their own way.
No, yeah, I think it's one of the biggest reasons I think why if someone is struggling in the franchise system, oftentimes, yeah, they're not following the system. And I know I was guilty of it so many times, and with my franchisor as well. I'm sure I was a pain in the butt in some instances.
No way. I can't see that out of you. No way.
I know, right? I don't have any strong opinions about anything. Um, if you guys are interested in seeing if this specific franchise is available in your area that shows in the franchise agreement 20% margins and franchisees who are doing producing over $1 million in revenue, some of them, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. Or if you just want to see, hey, what other franchises are available in my area, go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. Keep in mind, you need to have at least a bare minimum net worth of 150 or above. That's the bare minimum, ideally higher, to be able to really qualify for financing or be able to really qualify for any of these franchisors' financial requirements overall. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, the Franchise Empire Show, that is a separate YouTube channel where we post a podcast. And I did a solo podcast on the 4 keys to buying a winning franchise, to buying a profitable franchise. So you guys should check it out. It's really helpful, go into some deep tactical stuff. Again, you can search it on YouTube or wherever it is that you listen to any sort of podcast. So, but that's it for this week. Again, for those of you who don't have access to the newsletter, you can go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter. It's completely free. Get it in your inbox every week. Anything else before we wrap, Kevin?
I got nothing. No.
Cool. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your week. Peace out.